In an age of skyrocketing divorce rates, is it really possible to make love last? Welcome to the Falling in Love Forever show with Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman, the well-known relationship experts and best-selling authors of The Marriage Map book. Each week, they share the latest information to help you enjoy your romantic partnerships so you can fall in love forever. Here are your hosts, Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Michael Grossman. This is my wife, Dr. Barbara Grossman.
Hi.
We're here to talk to you about relationship and enjoying that romantic quality of life and making it work where your life unfolds. So we are authors of The Marriage Map, which is a book that we wrote on how to fall in love forever. It's a delightful perspective to have to create your life being delightful. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of skills, and a lot of growth. So while it is delightful and wonderful, it's not effortless. And my background, for those who don't know, I'm a medical doctor, anti-aging specialist. And Dr. Barbara is?
I'm an individual marriage and family therapist.
And Dr. Barbara is an expert in creating people enjoying their romantic partnership. So today we're going to think about how the stories of Cinderella and the Frog and the Princess, which are fairy tales, how they give us insights and understanding into how to create a romantic relationship that really will work for you. So these stories are ancient stories that have been going on for thousands of years. And you have various writers who bring them out into the public in a modified form. So Walt Disney has created both of these stories in various movies, and you get to see a point of view about these stories, but it's changed. These stories are not the original stories. Now, most of you will know the original story, the upgraded story from Walt Disney, but we want to tell you the actual original story from the Grimm's fairy tale.
So we want to actually say that Disney has fractured the stories. The original stories contain wisdom, tells us about how adults develop over time, important wisdom that gives us a roadmap and allows us to know that with time we change and how the change is good and it brings us fulfillment. Walt Disney doesn't tell us that.
And these Grimm's fairy tales are so old. Back then, they didn't have movies, and no one really had books either. You had handwritten scripts of scrolls and things, but you didn't really have books. So these were their entertainment. This is how people shared their stories. These were really profound stories that are a part of our ancient traditions in our Western culture. So let's look at these stories and let's think about them. So Bob, you want to talk about the first story, The Frog and the Princess?
So the princess is a little girl who's playing with a ball. She's outside and her ball falls down a well. And a frog comes by and asks her if she wants his help in exchange for being able to live in the castle where she's from.
Now, of course, the princess is crying when she lost the ball. It's her favorite toy, and she's so upset. And the frog is there and saying, "Oh, my princess, can I help you?" And she says, "I just want the ball."
So the princess is willing to promise anything. She just wants her ball. She's actually not thinking about anything else but getting her ball back. And sure enough, the frog retrieves her ball, and she's really happy. And she runs off to the castle and the king where she lives. And then in a short while, the frog knocks on the door. He's ready to collect his his reward. And she closes the door on him, and she pretends he's not there. She pretends he's insignificant. The king asks her who's at the door, and she explains that this frog found her, rescued her ball, and she promised to reward him with living in the castle. The king, who's her father, tells her, you need to tell the truth. It's important to tell the truth, which is a virtue, an important virtue in growing your life. And so reluctantly, she lets the frog in, and he enjoys the house. And in a short period of time, she asks to play with her, and eventually he asks to play with her, and in time he asks to sleep in her bed. And she reacts to this covert kind of sexual reference or innuendo by picking him up and throwing him against the wall. And in throwing him against the wall, he hits the wall, and sure enough, he becomes the handsome prince that he was before he was turned into a frog.
So this was a magical occurrence, which happened because the princess threw him against the wall. She didn't kiss him. She threw him against the wall. That's a very different story. In the Disney story, she kisses the frog, and then he turns into the prince.
So with Grimm, there's no kissing any frog. She stands up for herself, and she ejects him from her space, and it's a message that says, women can stand up for themselves, and they can ask for the behavior that they want. And in actually asking for the behavior they want, the frog improves himself. He becomes a real live human being. It grows the masculine presence, and she grows, and they eventually get married because she's evolved in her personality, and he's grown as well.
So we see a different story from the Disney story. You have the woman who is kind of weak and just says, all right, I just want my ball, and okay, if you get it, you can come and live with me. And then she becomes a woman who says, no, you can't sleep in my bed. Get out. I don't invite you to do that, and I won't allow that. So by creating that boundary, that actually wakes up the man. And that happens a lot in relationship, where if a woman says to a man, oh, you want to make love to me? Oh, well, maybe you need to marry me first. I know it's a little strange to say that today, but that's what the story says, that a woman has to stand up for herself and has to have a personality that creates boundaries and rules that uplifts the man. Because left to his own devices, the man will just says, well, I'm just here to have fun and just want to have a good time, and let's just enjoy things. Why do we have to have any kind of rules and so forth and requirements? But that is encouraging women, create the boundaries that you need to with your man, and that is going to lift up both of you to grow to a higher level of development.
So the princess grows from being a little girl who wasn't able to tell the truth and honor her promises, and she then defines herself and creates a boundary, and so she grows into more maturity, and the frog becomes a man. So that's an inclination. It's a story that suggests to us a direction for us to grow in. Now there are other stories that give further wisdom about how to grow over a lifetime.
So let's think about the Cinderella story. So we've all seen the movies of Cinderella through Disney. And in the Disney story, Cinderella is not that active. She cries when she can't go to the ball, and fairy godmother says, well, here's a dress and a pumpkin carriage, and she goes to the ball and dances with the prince and runs away. when it's midnight and the prince can't find her, and then the next day the same thing happens, and the next day the same thing happens, and then the last day she loses her shoe, and the prince finds her because she lost the shoe, and he asks everyone in the kingdom to put on the shoe, and it only fits Cinderella. So Cinderella didn't do a lot except to go to the ball. That's not the real story of Cinderella. So let's look at Grimm's fairy tale, which tells the real story of Cinderella over many centuries, probably over 1,000 years of this story.
Right, remember, Grimm's just compiled the stories. They didn't create them. They were old stories.
So in the real story of Cinderella, Cinderella is a stepdaughter, and she's not treated very well. And when she hears about the ball, she wants to go, and her stepmother says, well, you have to do this big thing about taking away the lentils and ashes and putting them into a big pile of lentils and taking them away from the ashes. And she does this huge feat. It was impossible to do, but she gets help from the birds and she's able to have it done. But her stepmother says, well, I changed my mind. You can't go anyway. And she plans on making her own dress and going anyway. So she sews her own dress, a very nice looking dress, and her two stepsisters look at the dress and says, you can't go to this ball, you're just, nothing, and they tear the dress up. And then she goes on her mother's gravesite, which is nearby, and cries and cries, and then the birds come down and leave her a beautiful dress. It's a little miraculous thing, a beautiful dress, and she puts the dress on and she walks to the ball. And when she's in the ball, yes, she does dance with the prince, and yes, he does fall in love with her. And then at dusk, when sunset is happening, she runs out and runs home, and she hides in the pigeon coop. And the prince runs after her and bangs on the door of the prison coop, and he gets his soldiers to come in and break the door down. But while they're doing that, she goes out the back door and goes into her house, and he can't find her. Next day, the same thing happens. She walks to the ball. The prince sees her. He dances with her and falls more in love with her. At dusk, same thing. She runs home, and he runs after her. She jumps into the pear tree next to her house, and he can't find her. And when he thinks he may see her, he runs to get some things to cut down the tree, but she jumps from the tree into her house on the branches, and he can't find her anymore. So she's gone. Next day, same thing happens, and the prince decides he's not going to let her run away on her own anymore. And he puts down pitch, which is a sticky substance used to catch birds on a tree. He put it down on the branches, and the bird gets stuck there and it can't get out. And he puts it down after she comes in on the steps, so that when she runs out, her slipper gets caught in it and falls off and gets stuck there. And she runs into her house, and the prince knows the house where she was in, and he goes in the house after she's run there, and he says, whoever can fit into this shoe becomes my wife. The two stepsisters try to fit in the shoe. One of them cuts off part of her foot so that she can fit into it. He's riding home with her in the carriage, and the birds come and say, oh, well, they're making a mess. And he looks down and he sees that she's bleeding and says, well, this is not you. There must be someone else in the house. You're not the one who fits into the shoe. And sure enough, he finds Cinderella. So what do we see here? We see a different kind of a story here. We see a story that's telling young women, if you want your man, you're going to have to take certain action steps to get there. Not just going to the ball once, but you got to get the clothes, you got to put them on, you got to walk to the ball, and then when the guy wants you, you got to make him run after you. You can't just wait for him to find you in terms of but you got to be active and let him know that you're here, but he has to really show that he's really serious, not once, but 3 times. Make a big effort to find you. And when he does find you, he's finding you because he wants his masculine energy to fit into your feminine energy. So he's not finding you at midnight, he's finding you at dusk. So when the sun goes down, the masculine energy goes away at dusk and the moon comes out, the feminine energy comes out. So he is moving into your feminine part. And he's showing you he's willing to do that. And the bird metaphor is the soul. The woman has this quality of being in this soul effect, of being a free soul, and the man recognizes that a woman is different than him and is willing to play with this quality of the soul. She recognizes that the woman has this quality of being close to the birds, and you see all the symbolism there. So the masculine and feminine energy are different, and they have to be willing to come together and willing to accept each other's being different.
Yeah, there's one part that I like especially where first of all, there's no fairy godmother in this story, if you notice. The Cinderella prays at the place where her mother is buried. She connects with spirit. She is empowered by the essence of her being. She finds her strength in herself, and she moves out of that place to create her future and meet her man. And she has respect for herself and allows the man to appreciate her, recognize who she is for him, and pursue her.
And that's so important for a modern relationship, that you want to let the man pursue the woman. You want to enjoy that. You both have this quality of falling in love with each other, but there's this playfulness and this pursuit that is just a delight, and you don't want to cut it off, and you don't want to make it too easy for the man. You want to have him pursuing you. And women make a mistake all the time where they say, oh, I'm in love with him, let's have sex right away, and that'll bond us. Well, it bonds the woman, but not necessarily the man. And it's a problem in modern life that you have a young woman who'll be in a relationship for 5+ years, and there's nothing there. Why would the man want to be married? He already has what he needs. But marriage is like a waste. Why ruin a good thing? Well, that's what this story is telling you. There's a little bit of a give and take that has to be gone between the masculine and feminine. You don't want the feminine to surrender everything to the masculine. You have to have this quality that goes on.
So that's how falling in love happens. And we're happy to support your experience of falling in love and staying in love forever.
So to stay in love, there's a whole other process involved with that. And we're going to tell you in the next weeks about a different story that is the story of Psyche and Eros, so Psyche and Cupid. And we're going to tell you that story. That's a little different story that says, well, what happens after you fall in love?
It's the journey to stay in love forever and what it takes.
Yeah. Well, we love to support you in your own relationships in all different ways. And we'd love to have you take our classes. We have a series of 4 classes that are done online or in person, where we teach you skills to fall in love forever. And to take those classes, you should go to fallinginloveforever.com. You can also go to our website, themarriagemap.com. And we look forward to you getting that information and doing more and more things that will help you to stay in love forever and to enjoy the process of growing and developing individually and in your relationship. So thanks so much, and we look forward to speaking to you again next week.
Wishing you love.
Thank you for watching the Falling in Love Forever show with Doctors Barbara and Michael Grossman. Join us next week for another informative discussion to help you keep your love alive. Be sure to visit us at themarriagemap.com. Or find out about our relationship classes at fallinginloveforever.com.